Today, I'm going to walk you through a stack of more than 20 freelance skills that you do not have to master before you can start getting paid in freelancing. So, if you're a teacher, if you work in healthcare, if you're in retail, if you have a job that you hate and you have thought about freelancing before, but then immediately thought, I don't have any skills that I could offer for freelancing, then this training is exactly for you. If you have a computer, the internet, and you can type, then you can freelance. All right. And if you want to fast track this process, I have a course that is free right now inside of my school community that is at school.com/freelance with Erica, Erica with a C. And inside of this community, at the moment, I have the doors open. It's completely free. It won't be forever. But if you join me now, inside of it, I have my course, 10 Days to Paid. I have students going through this course right now, and they are getting amazing results. They're landing clients, they're getting their Rising Talent badge, 100% job success scores, returning clients. It's awesome. So, if you're interested, this course will take you all the way from I have no idea what in the world I would offer from as a freelancer, all the way to I'm landing my first clients, I'm getting my first 5-star reviews, and you're setting up your Upwork profile for success so that you can really start to scale and become a freelancer. If we haven't met yet, my name is Erica Nall. I am a top 1% freelancer on Upwork out of more than 18 million freelancers there. I have retired my husband. We spent the last few years traveling the US as digital nomads, and it has given me the freedom to be able to be with my family as we are navigating right now, my dad having stage 4 cancer, and we're moving towards the end of that timeline. So, freelancing has quite literally changed my life. I had chronic illness. My employer refused to accommodate it, and I was able to quit and move into free time, into full-time freelancing. So, I now am helping beginners get started in freelancing. So, if you are listening to this on one of the podcasts, this is part of my Tuesday training series, where on Tuesdays I do a free training for beginners in freelancing. This training is part of my Substack community, which you can find at freelance.substack.com. This goes out every Tuesday to my community there, but Substack also distributes it to podcasts. And I know a lot of you have been finding me out on the podcasts, which are amazing. But I did want to just take a moment to mention that this is actually originating in Substack because it comes with a full video where usually I am sharing my screen and going through details there, as well as I have a written tutorial that typically goes through if you prefer to read what I'm teaching rather than listen or watch, you can do the reading. So if you're not yet a member of that Substack group, that's the second recommendation I would make is join me at freelancewitherica.substack.com. That way, every week or every time a Tuesday training comes out, it will go straight into your inbox. You will have the video, you will have the written training, but you can also still listen on the podcast. And I'm still learning. I'm not officially like a content creator. I'm a freelancer who's now trying to help people begin freelancing. So I'm working on getting better at remembering to like describe what's on the screen for those of you that are listening on the podcast. I'm not great at it yet, guys, but I'm working on it. All right. So I will try my best that as I share stuff on the screen, that I walk you through and describe what it is that we're looking at. But bear with me if it comes off a little awkward, especially if you're listening on the podcast. So speaking of sharing my screen, I have created, give me one second here, a little slide deck for today. In the free community where I was talking about where I have 10 days to paid, I actually just started teaching the next course because we have students that are graduating from 10 days to paid, which is meant to be to help you get your very first clients. So now that we have people that are just killing it, they're ready for the next stage of like, how do you grow from there? So I've started my new course called The Road to Top Rated. The first module has already dropped. That's also in the school community. But with that, I created a slide deck for the course, and I realized that I think that this is probably a lot better for people who don't want to just sit and stare at my face while I talk for an hour or occasionally pull up a graphic. And so I'm going to try now that I have kind of like a little template from that course to create slide decks to go with these Tuesday trainings when time allows in order to walk you guys through this. So let me go ahead and share my screen. Share. And also, if you're new to my world, I usually try and shoot these all in one shot. I don't do any editing. So if you hear me tripping over my words, if you, see me take a long, awkward time like this to try and share my screen. That's just part of the, let's call it authenticity of me. Again, not being a content creator. I still work full time with my clients in order to keep the bills paid while I'm doing this on the side. So I don't have time to become a full time video editor on these. So thank you for bearing with me. All right. So with this, I've got my slide deck pulled up. This is really just mainly to give you guys some visuals to follow along as I walk through and kind of talk through these details about different freelance skills that if you are in an industry right now that does not directly translate very well from what you do now into a freelance ready skill. The good news is that there are a bunch of digital skills that you can learn pretty easily that aren't going to take you years. You don't have to get certifications. You don't have to go back to school for. You just have to have a willingness to be resourceful and to learn. And I'll go through all these details with you here as we go through this. So we're going to go through 21 plus freelance ready skills. First, I want to start though with the framework that I use when it comes to picking what you're going to offer as a freelance service, because I think that I approach this uniquely from a lot of people and in a way that I think is really beneficial for people who are trying to be beginners and new breaking into freelancing. Because as a beginner, it is the hardest part. There's so many people that love the idea of freelancing. Maybe they stood up a profile and maybe they applied to some jobs or even did a few and then they quit. I did that myself. I had tried one time before on Upwork, did it for a little bit, had moderate success, but I couldn't see how it could scale to full time and I quit. And then it wasn't until I came back later and really got serious about strategy and I was really determined to make it work that I finally figured out through a lot of trial and error what works and what doesn't, and how to actually turn it into a full-time viable income replacement if you're interested in doing that. So here is how I teach the framework as far as when you're picking a service and how I personally am going to teach you guys as students that are learning as beginners to do it. So the first thing I do is I teach that we start really, really broad, really wide. Okay. So we start wide and we're starting with generalist gigs, which is why you don't have to have this skill right now. You can still get started right now. So what I teach in 10 days to paid is there is a ton of jobs on Upwork that do not require you to have super specialized skills yet. You might have an idea of what you want to do, or maybe you already have skills in it. And if you do, that's fine. But as a beginner, if you come in, let's say you're a web designer and you come in and you start applying for web design jobs, if you have a profile with nothing on it yet, not a single testimonial, not a single job, not a single dollar earned, you are going to have a very hard time winning any jobs because there are so many established website designers with great profiles, with lots of great testimonials, with a lot of social proof on there, big portfolios that they can share, right? Big names they can throw around, that your ability to compete with them at that point is so hard that is why people try and then quit, right? Because they go to the obvious thing. You would think that would be the obvious thing, right? I'm a website designer. I'm going to stand up a profile to do website design. But the problem is that most of those people are not going to be able to break through and get the momentum that they need. And so instead of what I teach is that we start and I have you focus on jobs that a lot of times have nothing to do with the service that you think you're going to offer. There are a bunch of beginner friendly sort of jobs that you can apply for. In 10 days to paid, I go through and show you exactly what these jobs are. They're usually very small in scope, but the key here is that they get you those early wins. They get you jobs on your profile. They get you great 5-star reviews. And they get you your rising talent. They get you a job success score, and you start getting all those stats that you need in order to begin to stand out as you apply for jobs. All right. So after we start wide, then we go shallow. And here's what I mean by shallow is that this is where we're going to start to transition into whatever area or service it is you think you might be interested in doing, but we are not going to get super specialized yet. We are also not going to apply for big or large scale jobs or long-term jobs. We are going to stay in very short, quick and easy wins. And we're also going to stay broad within the scope of the niche. So what I mean by that is when I was on Upwork, I did copywriting. That was my focus. And over time, I specialized into sales copywriting. And then over time, and I'll get into this here in a minute as we go through this framework, then I really started to stack my skills into a totally different offer. But it, for me, going shallow is that even if, let's say in copywriting, that I knew that I was really interested in doing website copywriting, let's say that. I'm not going to just focus on applying for website copywriting jobs. I'm going to look at every single type of writing job that's out there. And I'm going to look for small scope, easy to win, easy to do, sort of beginner friendly, lower rate jobs that are low risk to my profile. Okay. The other reason why we're doing it, one, we want it to be low risk. But two, we also I want you to have a chance to really experiment and figure out what you like and what you don't. What sort of clients do you enjoy working with? Which ones don't you? Right. And so rather than jumping into the deep end, so going straight from doing those generalist jobs to like, okay, I'm a website designer, I'm going to go apply to do these, full a $20,000 website, right? That has too much potential risk to your profile. We're going to be very protective of your profile as you grow it. And so we want to do these small scope jobs. I also want you to use this time to begin to experiment. And what's perfect about going shallow is that if you are learning a new skill, as you saw in step one, you didn't even have to know that skill yet. So during step one, this is when you're really starting to learn. And for me, when I learned a skill, I guess I haven't shared this yet. I thought it was at the beginning of the slide deck. I'm sure it's coming up later, but I'll share it now. Is that I'm a great example of this, guys. Like I came from the medical field and a really boring area of medical field. I was a compliance director, right? So I worked in the compliance department. I was the director of compliance. I also did privacy, quality, and then health information management. Spoiler alert, not a whole lot of freelance work in that area, specifically on Upwork. I'm sure that if I really wanted to make a go of it, I could freelance in that space, but it would require me to be directly reaching out to clients because there's just not a lot of that. So anyway, I was in the medical field and I did copywriting. I had never done copywriting a day in my life. That was a skill that I learned. I knew that I liked writing. I liked doing the creative. I love being able to be creative. And I knew that I had general like marketing knowledge to a degree that I knew that there was something there. I knew there was a lot of demand there, but I did not know the frameworks. I did not know, no one had ever paid me to do any form of copywriting. And so I learned it all on my own and I did it through YouTube. There's so many people with free content on YouTube, and I did it with AI. So AI can be a fantastic coach, especially when you have gaps between what you know how to do and then there's a gap between what it is that you need to do. You can use AI to help you bridge those gaps and to help coach you and teach you so that you can learn. So when we're starting wide, that is when you are beginning to learn what it is that you're interested in. As we're going shallow is where you get to start to put into action a few of the pieces of the things that you're learning. So you're not going to be an expert for a long time. Even for me, having done this for several years now and being in the top 1% and being able to easily land clients now, I still am constantly learning new things and improving in what I do. And when I look back over my shoulder at the work that I did just like even 2 years ago or a year ago, honestly, I'm like mortified compared to what it is now. And there's a part of me that feels guilty, like, oh, I feel bad that like people paid me that amount of money for me to write that piece of copy because my skills just keep improving, right? And the thing is, those clients were elated with the work at the time. And so you're going to be doing the exact same thing. And the beautiful thing about this is that you get to earn money as you're learning a new skill. You don't have to pay money to go back to college. You don't have to go get a certification. You don't have to pay a coach $2,000 to be in their mastermind to learn how to do this skill. You can teach yourself. You can learn it as you go, and you will have paying clients paying you money as you learn this skill and grow through it. Okay. So step two is we're going shallow, beginner friendly jobs in your chosen niche. Then we begin to specialize. So this is where after you've spent some time both working with different clients, getting to experiment with the type of work and the type of clients that you're working with, as well as getting to put into use the skills that you're learning. This is where now, rather than you looking at a list and just being like, yep, that sounds good, I think I'll try that. you're going to actually let your experience inform whether or not it's what you like and what you want to do, right? So, and I experienced this myself as I went through this, and I'll get into this in more depth as we go through this training. But a big part of this was for me, I went into it knowing I wanted to do copywriting. I thought that I wanted to do blog copywriting. So I had my own blog. I thought blogging was very interesting. I still enjoy writing blog posts. And so I was like, I really need to learn SEO so that I can do SEO optimized blogs. And so I was doing blogs. At the time I was doing Fiverr and Upwork, and it was fine, but I was getting bored with it. And that is one of the things about me that I learned through this process is I don't like doing the same thing over and over and over and over. And so what I realized was what I really enjoyed was where I got to be super creative in my writing. And what I found, because when I was shallow and when I was taking all sorts of different copywriting jobs, I was getting hired quite a bit to do email sequences for people. I got hired to write someone's website. I got hired to write a sales page. I got hired to write some ads. And as I did that, I'm like, I really enjoy the variety of that. And almost all of that falls underneath the umbrella of what they call sales copywriting. And so that's where I realized, you know what, I really think I enjoy more the sales copywriting than I do blog and SEO like copywriting. And so that's why we do that, because it allows you to actually figure out not just what you think might be fun, but to like actually experience it and go, no, you know what? I had no idea I would enjoy this, but I love this other thing. So that's when you specialize. And so when you specialize, that the higher you're climbing up these steps, the more money you're able to charge. And so for those of you who are listening in on the podcast, what I'm showing on the screen is basically it's going to be 4 stair steps. We're on stair step number 3. And with each stair step, there's a dollar. So the first one, step 1, starting wide, there's $1 sign. Then when you get to step 2, there's $2 signs. When you get to step 3, there's 3. And as you can guess, when we go into step 4, which is when we start stacking skills, there's $4 signs. So the other theme here with the framework is that as we take each step and as we continue to refine and figure out what service you're going to offer and how you're going to position that offer, you're able to charge more and more money as you go because you are becoming more and more of a specialist. And so when you're specializing, that's when you are a specialist. But then in this last step of stacking the skills, this is how you actually stand out even among the other experts in your field. Because even if, so like, for example, let's say I decided, I shared with you that I ended up specializing in sales copywriting, but even in that, I really could have niched down and specialized even more. I could have become just an email marketer, or I could have just become an ads copywriter, or I could have just become a sales page copywriter. There's plenty of demand and work just to like that. I could have really honed in on just one of those and made a whole career. And the more you specialize, the easier it is for you to land jobs and for clients to find you because you're the expert in what you do. But again, because I had done this experimentation, I learned that, and I knew about myself that if I zeroed in too far into any one thing, where if the only thing I was ever going to do is write email sequences, I knew that I would dislike my job pretty quickly. And part of the whole goal is if you're going to put in the work to become a freelancer, to work for yourself, to be self-employed, you want to create a job that you're going to enjoy showing up being in, right? That's very, very important. So it's okay. Like if, you know, to define what specializing is to you. But I just want you to know that the more you specialize, the more you're going to be able to charge, right? And the easier it is to find clients. But when it comes to that final step of stacking your skills, so let's say I had specialized in being an email marketer, right? There are a lot of other email marketers out there. So even though we've all specialized in becoming email marketers, even though we all might have our success stories that we can share, maybe we all have something slightly different, unique in how we do it, the more you can begin to stack skills. So this is where now you've become really, really good at the service that you specialize in, right? So maybe I become just amazing at writing email sequences. I have tons of templates that I can pull and draw from for different types of sequences, different types of industries. And there will always be more things that you can learn, but this is where you really have more time and space to then start looking at, and really you also are so close to client work at this point that this is where you can start to hear and find out from the client perspective, what is it that they need? What is it that they're paying other people for? What pains are they having in their business? And the more you can position yourself to not only solve their email problem. So I'm going to continue with my analogy of the email marketer. But so for them, let's say their email problem of copywriting their emails for them, the more you can start learning complementary skills that go with that so that you become an even stronger solution for them, that's the way how you stand head above shoulders over those other email marketers, right? Most people, when they hear specialized, and that's what all the internet marketing advice out there is like niche down and find a niche and stand out in your niche. And it's like, yes, you should specialize, you should get a niche. But where the real magic is on stacking those skills, because so many people have niche down that now you need something to go even a step further. So by stacking skills as an email marketer, what that might look like would be, let's say instead, it could also be software. Again, we'll get into all this in more detail here in a minute, but it could even be specific software. So I'm just thinking, for example, I work with coaches. A lot of coaches use Flowdesk as their email marketing software. Inside of Flowdesk, you can visually design it. You can also create templates that can be like you can share or install them from like client to client. And so I could easily see to where, like, if I wanted to start stacking skills there, not only would I position myself as a Flowdesk expert that does all of the sales copywriting for people, but I could have designed templates ready to go for the sequences that I do that I could then customized to the client based on their own branding, right? So like a designed header and like designed footers on it, and then maybe like different images that we could have within it, right? And then I have a visual that I can show them. I can offer you the design service plus the copywriting service, plus it's in Flowdesk. One of the other things that, again, I'm just going down this analogy road so you guys can really kind of understand what I'm talking about when I say stack skills. Another analogy or another example of that might be a lot of times my coaching clients aren't deep in the data, but they need the data. And so with that, a lot of times it may be maybe creating a dashboard that goes with their email marketing so that they can track different data, different metrics. How are things going? What's working? What's not, right? And so the more you can learn and begin to expand those skills so that you're not just an email marketer who does the copywriting, but you can do, you can do the design, you can do the copy, you can make them a data dashboard, right? You're specialized. Maybe you started off in Flowdesk, but now you realize, in this area, there's actually a bunch of other people using ActiveCampaign and MailChimp. So maybe you expand and stack your skills to offer more services within it. So that's what I mean by stacking skills. So with stacking skills, we don't want to, what I'm not talking about is we're not saying, okay, I'm doing writing, but I'm also going to go to a totally unrelated other niche as a secondary service, right? Instead, we are expanding in the area that you already, with the same sort of clients and the same sort of service you're doing, it's supposed to be complementary to it so that it makes you more valuable to those same clients you're trying to pull in. Okay. So this is the framework that we work with when it comes to picking out a freelancing skill and how you're going to grow that over time so that you can make more money. So this is exactly what I just said before, right? So I was in your shoes. I worked in healthcare. I was in compliance. I became a copywriter, right? Never had done it before in my life. And then I already shared this as we talked through this, but this is how it played out for me. So starting wide for me, what this looked like, and again, for those on the podcast, I'm going to go walk back through the same 4 stairs that I just did, but I'm going to share it from the perspective of my own freelancing journey. So starting wide, when I started back the second time on Upwork, which really I was starting way behind. My job success score had dropped down into the 70s. It was terrible. It was horrible trying to reclaim my profile. The good news is it is possible. It takes a lot of work. It was very hard. But one, I had to get my profile back. And two, this is where I was really starting to apply strategy. So when I came back and decided to go back into freelancing, I was at $15 an hour is what I was offering. So $15 an hour. And I started super wide and I was doing those very generalist sort of jobs because I was, again, just trying to get anybody to give me a chance because I was even at more of a deficit than what I was talking about earlier with you guys, to where when you start and you have zero jobs and $0 and, zero reviews, I had a job success score where typically people won't even open your proposals, right? Much less hire you. And so, I was applying to all these beginner jobs. And so it was stuff like doing testing on someone's website or on an app, giving them feedback on something, doing research tasks or small admin tasks. So it was just all these little random, short, quick, easy jobs, $15 an hour just to start for me trying to get my job success score back up, as well as start to get some fresh new momentum on my profile with reviews, with just from Upwork's perspective, as you're landing jobs, as you're applying on the system, you're sending the algorithm all the signs of you're active, people are responding to you, you're landing jobs, these clients are happy with those jobs. And the more that happens, then the more you get served up in the algorithm, the more your job success score climbs, right? Like, and so you start seeing those success signals. Step number two, going shallow. What that meant for me was I began exploring all writing jobs. So, like I mentioned before, I thought I was going to do blogging at first, but blogging, websites, editing, ghostwriting, technical writing, there's all, and this applies to any niche, whether you're in tech, whether you want to do design, writing, there are so many different types of jobs within these categories for you to explore. Okay. And so that is really what I did then was I explored. And as I mentioned, that's when I figured out in step three, when it came time to specialize, that what I really enjoyed was doing sales copywriting. So, and again, for those on the podcast, on step two, I went from $15 and starting wide. By the time I went shallow, I would say by that point, I was charging more around like 30. And then during that period, up to about $50 an hour. So on the slide deck, I have $40 showing there, but it was probably about $40 an hour. So not quite replacing what I was making in my old 9 to 5 yet. It was probably about $50 an hour for my old job. But by the time I specialized, so when I moved into sales copywriting and I started really specializing, and because this is a process, right? And the time it took me to walk up these 3 steps, a decent amount of time had passed. And during that, that's what, when I say a decent amount of time, this was probably over a 3 month period, right? So I don't want you guys thinking this is like years that we're talking about. This is probably about a 3 month period. And you might be thinking, holy cow, like how did she specialize within 3 months? And this won't be the same process for everyone because to be fair, at this point in time, I had quit my job because I had chronic illness and my employer told me I could close my door on bad days rather than accommodate it. So I quit and I had the benefit of a spouse that was working that could afford to keep us afloat. And so I was able to put full-time effort into this. So, um, it, and to be fair, when I say full-time effort, it really wasn't full-time effort. I wasn't spending 40 hours a week on it. But I was easily probably 20 to 30 hours a week I was putting into it. So I acknowledge that a lot of people have kids, you have jobs, you have other things, right? So part of how I teach this is to show you in 10 days to paid. I walk you through and I show you exactly how you can still scale this up without burning yourself out trying to do 2 things at once. So when I say it took me 3 months, I just want you to have that awareness that I did have quite a bit of dedicated time that I could put towards it, that I think more realistically for most people, it'll probably be more like 6 months before you're really getting into that specialization period, especially if you're learning a new skill. Okay. But when I say specializing, again, in no way was I an expert in sales copywriting, but I had enough proof and enough happy clients on my profile that I was easily landing jobs in sales copywriting. And a lot of these jobs I was learning on the job as I went. And so I knew generally, like, from YouTube videos, I mean, I had learned about it, but it was like once I would get a job, it'd be like, oh, cool. Now I need to learn everything I need to go learn about writing meta ads because I haven't written meta ads before, right? Like I knew the general things. I knew how to write a hook. I knew the different sorts of things that move people when it comes to sales copywriting. Like I had the pieces, but I had a gap, just like I talked about before. It's okay to have a gap. When you have a gap, you just have to have trust in yourself that you can close that gap by either going and finding the answers on blogs, through Google searches, on YouTube, or using AI. And so a lot of times I used AI to help close that gap. and then get myself to where I needed to be. So in specialization, I was at about 75 an hour. And then finally, when I started stacking skills, this is again where I'm talking about where it's really interesting by letting the process direct you on where to go rather than saying this is where I'm going, right? So at the time, I thought sales copywriting is what I'm doing. And I was really starting to play around with like, should I specialize and stand up a business that just writes people's sales pages, or should I, maybe do just be an email marketer? Like I was really starting to feel like I needed to really zone in further. And what happened instead was during the time that I was specializing in sales copywriting, I had an amazing coaching client who found me on Upwork, and she hired me to write her an email sequence. She was having trouble getting people to go from her low ticket offer into her high ticket offer. And so she wanted me to help write her some email sequences to try and upsell people into this program that she had. And for me, I couldn't help it. My little like architect building brain, I have a lot of operations experience. So when I was in healthcare, a big part of me ending up with so many departments is that I'm really good at seeing problems and then building solutions for them. And so the way how I ended up collecting all those departments in healthcare was that a lot of those departments either needed to be built from the ground up, or they were problematic departments for various reasons that needed to just be overhauled. And that's where I really shine. I'm really good at that stuff. And so she had noticed as we went through it, and as she was sharing stuff about her business, I couldn't help but see like, she's really got some gaps in between. Like this email sequence isn't going to move people from this point to this point. Like strategy wise, she has some bigger gaps here. And so I shared that with her because we got along pretty well, and I felt like it wouldn't offend her to share it. And for her, it was this like eye-opening moment where she was like, "Oh my gosh!" And she's like, "Girl, like you are great as a copywriter, but you really should explore being an OBM." She's like, "You got OBM vibes." And I was like, "I have no idea what an OBM is or what it is that you're talking about." So OBM in the online world stands for Online Business Manager. It's one of the skills we're going to go through here in just a bit when we go through some of the potential digital skills you can learn. But basically, an OBM basically works on the back end of an online business as a business manager. So they kind of handle all things, and it can look very different from client to client, right? Like that title can be thrown around, and an OBM position for one client can look totally different to the next. But from my research that I did on it, to me, it felt a little more high level and more managerial than I like doing the doing. I like having my hands down in it. I like building, I like creating. And so I was like, I don't know if that's quite it, because I don't want to be managing high level. I don't want to be managing staff and projects and doing that. Like I want to be building, I want to be doing. And so after she and I had chatted, what we talked about was that like I thought it would be really fun to build basically the back end architecture framework for online businesses, specifically coaches, helping them set up their courses, set up their memberships, and especially doing their funnels. Because a big part of copywriting, and almost all the copywriting I was doing in sales copywriting, was part of people's funnels. So, funnels, if that's a new term for you, are really just a marketing tool online to where the idea is you see an ad or you see a social media post and someone promotes something to you and says, "Would you like to buy this $27 product? Or would you like this free thing from me?" Right? And so you go to that opt-in page or you go to that checkout page, and then you go buy it. And if you're on a checkout page, a lot of times it has an order bump. And then maybe after you do your checkout, it goes to another screen and it says, "Oh, but wait, here's a special 50% off offer. Do you want this course for $500 or $2,000 or whatever?" Right? And you might say like, "No, thanks." And then it's like, "Okay, no problem. Well, how about this $99 thing instead?" Right? That's a funnel. That's you being inside of a funnel. And a funnel can look a lot more broad than that too. And so the way how I build it with my coaching clients is we do a little bit of funnelizing at checkout, but we do a lot of the funnel building through emails on the back end. So we bring them into the system after they've bought, we nurture them, and then we send them into an upsell sequence, then we give them a breather, then we take them into a downsell sequence, right? And so the idea is we're always ascending people into new offers. So that lit me up. That was very much in my wheelhouse. And so I turned into what's called an online business architect. I made that term up. I haven't met anyone else yet that uses that term, but I felt like rather than an online business manager, I felt more like an architect. Like I help the strategy, the systems, the sales, and I do that. That is how I stacked my skills. So I brought all the sales copywriting knowledge, which is involved in every aspect of funnel building, coaches' websites, their sales pages, their ads, their emails, their checkouts, right? But I also learned all the technical skills of, okay, I can set up your course in Kajabi. Okay, I could build you a membership in Circle. Okay, I can set up automations to zap people from this place to this place when someone buys, right? And so, and again, I didn't know any of that, guys. I learned it all as I went. And that's the thing too, is I didn't stop from saying yes to a potential job just because I had never worked with that software yet, or just because I never had done that skill yet. Um, if it was something I felt confident that I could go find resources, I could go read up on it, or I could use AI to bridge that gap, then what I did was again, you're getting paid to earn as you learn. And so for me, whenever I was learning on the job, so if I was having to learn a new piece of software, learn to do something, I would just bill the client at half the time, right? Because part of it was me going slower than someone who was much better than me at it that already knew because I was in my learning curve. And then if I did any learning off of the job, so if I was just pure like watching a course or watching a YouTube video, obviously I wouldn't charge the client for that. But if I was doing the work and I knew that I was going super slow because I was having to like stop down and ask AI how to do this or go find a blog on how to do that, I would charge half the time. But then the good news was the next time a client comes up and is like, hey, I'm on Active Campaign and I need this thing done, and be like, oh, I've already done that before. Easy. I know how to do it now. Right. So that is how this framework played out for me as in my experience as a freelancer. So the key here is that you don't have to wait to be ready. So that's really important. I just want to make sure you guys understand. You don't need to be ready. You don't need a certificate. You don't need courses. You just need to find a problem that clients have that you are capable of solving for them. Okay. So the goal here is to get you that first one gig, get your first win on the board as a freelancer. And then you begin to improve and iterate with every new job that you get and as you learn these skills. So we're going to go through more than 20 skills. The big thing here is I want to make sure that you don't need to know all of the things before you get started. And this is also somewhere where I see a lot of people get stuck overthinking or perfectionism getting involved. And I'm a recovering perfectionist. I get it. But that is one of the things that walking into this, you need to be aware that you're going to have to fight that instinct, because there's going to be a lot of things where you are going to move, you're going to step forward and say yes to something where you don't know 100% of it yet, and you're not an expert in it yet. Okay. So again, you're going to have gaps sometimes. Those gaps should be things that you can close within hours to a few days, not weeks. If it's something that you feel like it's going to take you weeks to learn something, then that's too big of a gap. But if it's a gap where you're like, you know what, I probably could find a couple YouTube videos and ask AI and figure out how to do this piece that I don't know of it, then you're going to challenge yourself to move forward in those situations as well. But here's what I do want from you. So what I do want is that you're going to be resourceful. So that is one of the key skills that you need in order to work for yourself and to be a freelancer. So unlike jobs where someone sits you down and says, okay, and holds your hand and says, like, this is step one, this is step two, here's your formal training, watch this video, here's what to do. You're going to have to be your own training resource, right? You're going to have to look at what it is you're trying to do, and you have to go find resources out there that can help you. Okay. The good news is there's tons of low and no cost resources now available to you that you can learn most anything that you need without having to buy super expensive courses. For me, again, I learned almost everything for free when I started, and it wasn't until I really had momentum and was making decent income from freelancing before I started reinvesting that into, okay, now I'm going to go take a course from this person who's an expert, where I watched a bunch of their free stuff on YouTube and they were amazing. Now I'm ready to go ahead and spend the money on that course. to learn the next things, to get better at what I'm doing. You need to have a willingness to learn new things, and you need to set the expectation that you're basically going to continually be a student. So even when you get to the top of that framework, even when you stack your skills and you're in the period where I am right now, being in that final step, I'm constantly learning new things. I'm constantly bringing in new skills, trying to improve what I can offer to clients. So you're always going to be a student when you're doing this. And because the way you're making money is by basically selling yourself and what you can do, one of the best investments you're going to be able to make is to continue to constantly feed your skills, constantly improve, because the more you do that, the more you're able to charge, the more in demand you're going to be with clients, right? And so you need to stay on top of stuff. So you need to be in the mindset that you're always going to be a student. All right. And then again, in this do category, so being resourceful, having a willingness to learn, and the expectation that you're always going to be a student. These are all skills. And I want to emphasize that word. They're skills. They're not something you're born with. They're not just a trait that you have. It's a skill that can be learned. It just takes practice. It's like a muscle. So if you maybe have a tendency to lean pessimistic or negative, like, I can't do that, I don't know how to do that, I don't think I'm very resourceful, right? Like, if you're listening to that and your brain is saying that, that is a pure mindset thing. That is, you are experiencing the world through a filter that is pessimistic or negative, and has told you or convinced yourself that you are incapable of learning new things or being a student or being resourceful. It takes practice, but you have to learn to adjust that thinking, challenge that thinking, and then prove to yourself. Basically, in small steps, you start to give yourself proof that, wait a minute, no, I actually can be resourceful. Look, I just found this great person who teaches this thing I'm interested in for free on YouTube. Oh, look at this. Like, I am resourceful. I figured out how to use AI to be my coach on how to figure out this new skill, right? And the more you can give yourself little pieces of proof as you go along, that filter that your brain is experiencing the entire world through starts to shift, and you start to have a mindset shift of like, wait a minute. So that the next time someone says you need to be resourceful, you need to be a student, rather than your brain being like, bah, 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 yeah, like, that's not me, I can't do that. Instead, it begins to slowly shift towards, yeah, I can be resourceful, right? And so that's the goal. Is you want to get, over time, you practice it just like a muscle, you make it get stronger, and over time that filter and that mindset shifts. So it's all a skill. It's not you are or you aren't. It's a decision that you make, and then you begin to build on that skill. All right. So next slide here. So there has never, ever, ever, ever been a better time than right now for you to try and freelance if you're interested in it. Between the internet, having ready access to the internet for almost everyone, almost everywhere, the rise of content creators and influencers who are creating so much content on social, on YouTube, on all of the different platforms, right? Streaming, and many, many, many of them are giving really good, high quality education out for free, including just like how you're watching this training today, right? For free. They give out good stuff for free that you can learn a ton just by going to AI, or not going to AI, going to YouTube, going, like, reading and following these people on social media so that you can be a student and learn from them, even just from their free content. And then finally, AI. AI has been a game changer in so many different ways, but it is fantastic for when you have knowledge gaps and you need to quickly be able to learn a new skill. It's quite literally you having a coach, just like the coaches online that want, that ask you to pay $1,000 a month, $2,500 a month to work with them, for them to teach you a skill, right? For them to give you their frameworks. And there is value in that, obviously, when someone truly is an expert in what they do and they have very unique, specific frameworks that they can teach. In no way am I saying that there's not value in working directly with those coaches. But what I'm acknowledging is that as a beginner who hasn't made a single dollar yet, who needs to learn a new skill and probably doesn't have the time, energy, money, etc., to do that, I'm saying that AI is a great alternative. to where you literally just tell it, I need you to act as a business coach for me. I'm learning how to do meta ads. I need you to, and I'm starting from ground zero. I know nothing about it, right? I need you to create a curriculum for me of what are the key things I need to know in 2025 so that I can confidently offer this service to clients. Make you the curriculum, just like a course would be. And you'd be like, great, let's start with module one, lesson one on this. Can you please create that for me now and teach me this thing? Right. And then you get to just talk to it like a person. So it'll spit out, like all the content. You read it. If you have questions, you ask the question, it'll give you back the answers. Right. And then just like anything else you learn, it's one thing to read about it, it's another to actually do it. So you get a level of comfort by starting to just educate yourself through reading on it, watching videos on it. But then you get your first client. You're, of course, going to feel nervous, right? Because you've never done it before. In 10 Days to Paid, I walk you through how you land those clients, even though you haven't had clients yet before. So if that's a worry popping up, don't worry. I got you on that. But then that's when you just hop back into your coaching AI session that you have going and be like, great, I've got a real case scenario now. I'm working with a client. Here's what the client does. Here's what the goals are. Here's the things I promised to do. Here's the step I'm on. I'm inside the account. I'm trying to get this pixel set up, but it's not working. Can you help me troubleshoot it? Guess what? AI is fantastic at helping you troubleshoot it, right? Those are the gaps. And so that part where you feel like, oh, like what if I get stuck and I don't know something? The good news is you have this tool in your pocket that can help you 24/7, 365, that has the entire world knowledge base in its brain. And in 2 seconds, it can tell you exactly what you need to be doing. Okay. So there's never, ever, ever been a better time for you to try freelancing. All right. So now with that, let's get through these 20 services. So I know that was a whole big setup. But what I just went through is actually more important than these services. Because if you were following along, where I was talking about is we're going to let the process determine the service, right? But I still want you to have some ideas. These are just to tickle your brain to be like, what sounds interesting? What might I check out? The other thing is inside of my school community, again, all for free as of right now. I also have a diagnostic tool where you can take a little, I think it's like 12 questions, 12 question quiz, and it will suggest for you what are going to be your best fit niches and ideas for different services. So you can also play with that here. But so again, this is high level. I'm gonna run through these 20 plus services that you can consider. But when you join the school community and start 10 Days to Paid, this is where instead you're going to start again back down at the bottom with going wide with those generalist jobs. And then you can start to learn your skills. And then you're going to let the jobs that you're landing inform where you want to actually move. So this is something kind of like me where I was like, oh, I think I want to do blog writing. This is your moment to look at a list and go, oh, that might sound interesting, but don't get married to it because you're going to let the real experience move you and help you figure out what's a job that you would really love to show up and do every day, right? All right. So these jobs are split into a few different categories. It's marketing and advertising, content creation and design, business ops and management, and tech and automation. The good news with this too, in my opinion, is that this includes a wide variety of personality types. So introverts, extroverts, technical, non-technical, creative, not creative, right? And so that way, no matter what sort of job you do now, no matter what sort of personality type you have here, these jobs that I'm about to go through with you, there should be something that fits well for your preferences and personality type. So let's start off with marketing and advertising. So marketing and advertising, these are just a few, but here are some ideas of jobs that you could do that, in my opinion, you can learn pretty quickly with where there is plenty of free or low cost content out there that you can join or watch along with AI that you do not need to go get official certifications. You don't need to have years of experience in order to offer. So one of those is being an ads manager. Another one is being an SEO specialist. Another is an email marketer, social media management, public relations, and then lead generation or list building. In content creation and design, I've got being a designer. That's very broad. So again, we're staying kind of in that shallow category, but underneath design, there's so many different options, right? Like you could be a logo designer, you could be a website designer, you could be like a collateral designer. So like doing basically a bunch like canvas sort of design. So like flyers, brochures, banners for people's stuff. There's so many different types of design jobs. And what I really encourage people that are new to Upwork or new to freelancing is that once you get your account set up, just go to the searching the job, to the job search, and then you can click on like the design option and you can just look at all jobs. And I really recommend that people just spend some time scrolling through the jobs that are open because a lot of times it'll spark something where you'll be like, I didn't even know that was a thing that like people paid other people to do. That sounds fascinating, right? And so there's times all the time where I'll see a job and I'm like, I didn't even know that there was people out there doing it. Now, whether or not there's enough demand to support full time, that might be a whole different question. But again, in 10 days to paid, I go through all of that with you so you can make sure you're choosing an in demand sort of job. So the same goes with writing. So with writing, so many different options. You could do blogging, you could do technical writing, you could do grant writing, you could do sales copywriting, emails, ads. I mean, it goes on and on and on. You could do editing, proofreading, you can ghostwrite books. There's so many writing jobs. Video editing, podcast managers, live streaming specialists, community management, and course developers. Next, in the next category of business operations and management, you could be an online business manager or architect. I added that in. So if what I described earlier sound interesting to you, there's tons of work around funnels, and also just becoming experts in specific pieces of software that you can stand up for people working on the back end of their business. Project management and coordination, bookkeeping, analytics and data specialists, appointment setting or sales development, outreach, affiliate program management, and online reputation management. And then finally, under the category of tech and automation, you could do funnel and checkout building. You could become an automation specialist. You could become an expert in a specific program, software, or service. And so this is, again, just I know I talked about this a bit earlier when I talked about like I used email as example. So like Flowdesk, ActiveCampaign, MailChimp. That's one type of software, right? Those are email softwares. But maybe you specialize in a CRM, a customer relationship management software. Maybe you specialize in an accounting software. Maybe you specialize in it can also be programs like, let's say you're an expert at Google Sheets, right? And you can build any sort of crazy dashboard people want, right? Or anything that people want, like crazy formulas in a Google Sheet. That in and of itself could be you becoming an expert in it. You could be an expert in Notion. You could be an expert in Asana or Dubsado or Monday. Like there's so many software, so many, that really learning a specific software so that you can be a true expert in that software, especially doing more advanced sort of things that are harder for people. That's usually where you're going to see quite a bit of demand of people hiring people to help them. So anything that you choose to really go deep into learning, that can become a service that you offer. Being an AI specialist, AI is such a hot field. And the thing is, is again, it's just this is a little meta, but it's like you can use AI to teach you AI skills. That's how I've learned a lot of my AI skills. I consider myself really great at prompting, but beyond that, I also have learned and I stay current with trying to keep up with all the different new ways that you can use AI. It's moving very fast. But the good news is if you're interested in it, you're not far behind at all. AI has only been on the scene for, I don't know, what, 2, maybe 3 years, since it's really been out in the public heavy. And with it, because it's iterating so fast that like even the stuff people were learning 2 years ago are already going away. And it's always about like, what's the new thing coming out? What's the new thing coming out? So just about anyone can hop in right now and be current and competitive with anybody else. The other good news is those AI jobs pay redonkulous money, not just in freelancing, but out in the regular world. So if you hate your job now and maybe freelancing doesn't end up being where you end up full time, you could take the skills that you learn from that. You can take the social proof of the work that you do in freelancing with the type of jobs that you do, the reviews that you get from clients, and then you can use that on a resume to transition into an AI job. But with AI, at least right now, I would say some of the more popular sort of work that I see on Upwork are people wanting like chatbots created or custom GPTs. They really like it when someone can take like their knowledge base of trainings they've done, courses they've created, video transcripts, and put it all, house it all inside of a custom GPT that then their students, their clients, whatever, can almost like a help desk that's interactive. They can ask questions and it can serve up answers. And so learning how to train a chatbot or a custom GPT like that in order to engage with people. There's also quite a bit of demand in people who know how to create hybrided systems between using AI, like calls to AI, to where that's very open-ended, right? You ask a question and then they can't guarantee exactly what the AI is going to say back to you, right? Because the AI is it's going to give an open-ended response. So 10 people could ask the same question and they might get slightly varied responses and how it responds. But with automations, you can create certain things that are automated where it's absolute, right? If someone does this, this happens and this happens, and you use that through automation software. And so there's a lot of people right now that like doing hybrided systems where part of the automation workflow is almost hard coded through automation using systems like Zapier and other pieces of software. But then it might get to a certain piece where they want to pass it over to AI to get an open-ended response from AI intelligence that then gets passed back in to continue flowing through. So I won't bore you guys with too much of those details, but again, just trying to plant those seeds of what people might be interested in. And then the final one is e-commerce. So becoming an e-commerce specialist. So that was, I think, like 22 or 23 different skills in demand right now. Lots and lots of jobs on Upwork. And in my opinion, pretty quick and easy to learn a new skill if you're willing to be resourceful and do it. Okay. So with this, let's see what a couple of these might look like in action. So let's start off with an ads manager. So let's say you're interested, you heard me talk about these different services and you think, you know what, I think I might be interested in learning ads and doing ads on Facebook, Instagram, Google, whatever. This is what that process, going back to our original framework of starting wide, then going shallow, then specializing, and then stacking skills. And as you remember, with each step, we're charging more. And with each step, we're also taking longer term, more serious sort of jobs. And so that's the other thing too, is that when you're starting wide at the beginning, you're working with a ton of clients on small scale, lower paying jobs. And as you move towards the top, usually you're only working with a handful of clients who are paying you premium work and it's long-term work. So you're out of the grind. So you'll hear me say over and over again in my different trainings, it will never be harder than when you're a beginner. And that's why I chose to focus on beginners, to help people get over that initial hump, because everything gets easier as you work your way up this process. Okay. So with an ads manager, starting wide, what that looks like, what that might look like in this hypothetical scenario was they do, again, non-specific jobs to running ads for people, but maybe they're doing some competitor research. They're doing app reviews. They're doing some market research surveys, right? Then when they're ready to go shallow, so they've been starting to learn in the background while they were going wide. Now they're ready to dip their toe in the shallow end into, okay, now let's actually start playing around in the marketing field, right? I'm going to start doing some jobs. Maybe I'll do some ad copy feedback. Maybe I'll do a basic Facebook ad account setup. Maybe I'll do an ad analysis report, right? So you're starting to dabble with some of the things you're learning, but it's low risk, low stakes, short, fast, easy jobs. You're charging a bit more than you did when you were doing the general jobs, but you're again protecting your profile, protecting your reputation, and learning while you're getting paid. Then as you start to specialize, that's when you're going to start becoming, okay, now I'm going to be a Facebook ads manager for digital product businesses. Now, during the shallow phase, of course, there's kind of this gray area in between as you're transitioning. So even when you're shallow, eventually, as you've been dipping your toe in and as you're getting some confidence, you're going to start doing some Facebook ads for people, right? But we might be doing it on a shorter term, right? Maybe we're going to do just like a month worth and see how it goes with them, right? And so rather than just being like, sure, I'll be your long-term ads manager. So then by the time you're specializing, that's normally where you're picking kind of like what sort of industry do I like working with or what sort of offers do I like working with. So in this case, this scenario, it's a digital product business. Then when they start stacking skills, that might look like doing Facebook ads with conversion rate optimization with Google Analytics. So again, now that they're deep into Facebook ads, they have a much better idea of what their clients with digital product businesses actually want, right? And so they want help on how can I get better conversion rates and a better return on my ads, and how can we incorporate Google Analytics so that I can actually see my data, right? And then from there, this person could keep stacking over time. Maybe they start having a dashboard offer that goes with it where they're pulling in those Google Analytics and being able to show them how the conversion rate optimization is working, right? You can keep stacking as you go. Another way to stack might be you do Facebook ads, but you decide to go learn Google ads too. So now you're an ads manager that can do more than one platform of ads. All right, the next example we'll look at is an SEO specialist. Maybe you heard me mention that. You thought that sounded interesting. Here's how that looks in the framework. So starting wide, again, general, doing website feedback, competitor research, or content proofreading. When you go shallow, so now we're dipping our toe in, maybe we do some keyword research reports. Maybe we do some basic SEO audits or meta description writing. So it's all elements and pieces of doing SEO without jumping full in a long-term sort of contract doing SEO work. Now, again, towards the end of going shallow, we will start to get more confident. We will start actually doing SEO. So maybe that might look like taking over someone's 5-page website that they want SEO optimized and you going through and optimizing the entire website and all of the places, their images, the different places where you can optimize SEO, rather than saying, I'm going to do an ongoing long-term retainer client contract with you where I'm going to write you 10 SEO optimized blogs per month every month, right? Like that's too big, too fast. So that's shallow. Then when we specialize, so now we've gotten our feet wet, we feel comfortable now doing some SEO work. This is where, as we've been experimenting, we're ready to specialize. And maybe we say we're going to do local SEO, which is a very specific type of SEO. Local SEO services specifically for restaurants, right? Now, again, you don't necessarily have to get that niche. You can be like me. You could just say, I just do local SEO. But you also might find over time you really like working with restaurants. And if there's enough demand to do it just with restaurants, you can specialize there. And that's like me. I specialized in coaches eventually, but it took me a while before I got there. And then stacking skills. So local SEO plus learning Google My Business, which is huge for restaurants. So with Google My Business, you have to claim your Google profile. And that's where when you search like restaurants near me and it shows everyone on the map, and then you can click on them, you can see their hours, you can see their menu, you can see if you can order online. That is Google My Business. So the restaurants have to usually have some, amongst a lot of times they don't know how to do it, set up for them their Google My Business. So if you have been in that world doing SEO for restaurants, you probably would have gotten exposure to realize, oh, this is a pain point for them. They don't know how to set up Google My Business. I can come in and tell them, I can optimize that for them. I can set up their menu, their online ordering, right? Like instantly you become that much more valuable to them. Review management. So again, on Google, people are going to be leaving reviews. So offering to do review management where you're going to keep an eye on it. If someone leaves something negative, you respond in order to turn it into a positive, right? As well as doing local content strategy for multi-location restaurants. So that's an example of how you could stack skills over time. And then the final one I have is a video editor. So starting wide might look like video feedback, product reviews, transcription. Then when you go shallow, maybe starting to do basic YouTube cuts, creating transitions, doing thumbnail creations for YouTube creators. When you're ready to specialize, it might be becoming a YouTube video editor specifically for fitness influencers, or like the health and fitness space, right? And then when you're ready to stack skills, what that might be is video editing plus thumbnail design plus YouTube strategy plus channel analytics, right? So again, that's where we're staying. And do you see how when it comes time to stacking, all these things are kind of radiating around the primary service that you do. So it's a video editor, but doing thumbnail design, doing YouTube strategy, doing channel analytics, it all radiates around your specialization of being a YouTube video editor for a health and fitness space, right? Okay. Oh, I had one more in here. Sorry, guys. E-commerce specialist. So if e-commerce sounded interesting, starting wide might be product research, competitor analysis, app reviews. Going shallow might be product listings, Shopify setup, and inventory spreadsheets. Specializing would be setting up Shopify store optimization specifically for handmade goods. And then stacking those skills might be Shopify plus the email marketing plus ads plus conversion optimization for high ticket handmade items and brands. Okay. So again, you let the process show you the road that you're going to walk rather than you being like, nope, this is what I'm going to do. Like as you go, and there's so much more to it too. It's not just what you like. That's obviously super important, but there's also demand in the market, right? And so you might go in thinking like, oh, I really want to work just with vets and in the pet space, right? That depending on whether or not you're going to stay primarily on Upwork, you're going to very quickly find out whether or not there is enough jobs on that platform specifically that are vets and pet related things for you to specialize and then stack upon just within that niche. Does that make sense? And so so a lot of times the process of just doing is going to reveal the road for you because you're going to naturally it's going to fall into your lap as you're constantly in there looking at jobs, applying to jobs. You're going to see what there's demand for and you're going to see what there's not demand for. And naturally, you're going to gravitate towards, okay, there's clearly a space here of high need from people that is not being met because I'm just seeing constant jobs all the time for these and they're paying well and I really enjoy doing it, right? And so you're going to let it define what this process looks like as you step up the ladder. Okay. So if you've been interested in freelancing, but then you say, I don't know what it is that I would offer, the whole point of this training was to basically make sure that you understand that's totally normal. It's normal. It's okay. But the good news is it doesn't mean that you can't freelance. It doesn't mean you're not qualified to freelance. All it means is you just don't know what your offer is yet. And the good news is you don't have to know yet because like I said, the way I teach it, you get to start really broad and in general jobs so that you can start learning while you're starting to grow your freelance profile. All right. So I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna stop the share so that I can come back and talk to you right here. It's gotten dark outside over the course of doing this training. I know this is a long one. I'm sorry, guys. But so let me see here. Yeah. So the whole theme of today's training was again just to make sure that if you are in a field or if you just feel like you just don't have the skills to freelance, I just want you to really, really walk away understanding and believing that you don't have to know even what it is you're going to do yet. Okay. But if you are interested, your next step right now is to go to school.com/freelance with Erica. As of this moment, this is what? Okay, I'm recording this early. This is on Sunday before our Tuesday training. Let me one sec. Let's see what date is Tuesday. Maybe not. My computer won't work. But anyway, I'm recording this right now on August 23rd. So as of the end of August, my community is free right now. So if you are listening to this, you should come join because 10 days to paid is in there. It's free. The diagnostic tool that helps you find a niche is in there. It's free. I've got tons of other tools and goodies and resources. I have students who are blowing it up and doing great. So if you are feeling like you're interested, but you're nervous, come join us. Okay. I would love to see you inside. And again, if you're not in the Substack community, I highly recommend you join that as well, which is freelancewitherica.substack.com. On Tuesdays. It used to be weekly. Right now, life has been lifing, so it's kind of just on the Tuesdays that I can. But as I do that, I'm releasing free trainings, these Tuesday trainings. It will go straight to your inbox. And I would love to see you in either of those places. So, otherwise, I will see you guys in our next Tuesday training. Thanks for hanging out with me. And I'm really excited to hopefully be meeting some of you new faces in the community soon. All right, I'll talk to you guys later. Bye.